this is nice to have you here. You're obviously working. That's why you're in New York, but you get to do a Thanksgiving in New York.
Yes, yeah. My girlfriend and I are hosting.
Is that something you've done before? No, first time.
I've never done that before. So yeah, I thought I'm just gonna make myself. You know, I can't cook, so I'm gonna just make myself as useful as humanly possible. I thought I was gonna be doing some maybe chopping of things. I found out yesterday I'm not gonna be trusted with chopping.
Wow.
But that's probably a good decision.
Because chopping is the lowest as far as.
Stirring is the lowest.
Stirring is, you're right, stirring is lower.
Stirring is lower.
So are they going to have you doing a little stirring?
I'm going to be stirring. I'm going to be maybe crushing things.
Oh, that's good.
Or if that's required, yeah.
And how many people are you hosting?
9.
Okay.
Which is for like some families will laugh at that paltry amount of people, but like for me that's more people than I've had in one group outside of this kind of room in a long time.
Turkey though?
Yep, turkey and then a bunch of sides and yes, we've got a vegetarian, so we've sorted them out. They've got an option. I've got a friend who's allergic to nuts. They're sorted. So yeah, I've really it's been a week of finding out everybody's dietary restrictions.
Yeah, that is the new problem in this day and age. Or it just makes it raises the level of difficulty. And will you watch? We've talked before. You became a football fan, an American football fan. Will you be watching?
Absolutely, yeah. That'll be the sort of the soundtrack to the day. And my girlfriend's from Michigan, so we'll be there's always a Lions game on Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's good.
With the misery or joy that entails.
Yeah, more often than not, misery.
It has been. But I feel like there's a certain heartbreak is part of being a Giants fan.
Oh, okay.
In a way that it is sort of about like a lot of, being an English football fan is also sort of in some way, well, growing up was, mixed in with a lot of heartbreak and missed penalties.
Yeah. And was the World Cup exciting for you? I know in the end it ended in tears, but but
that's the furthest they've got in my lifetime.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Like, don't laugh at that just because you're America and you win stuff all the time. Like I remember the first time we were in Germany and the date that everyone in England grows up knowing is 1966 is the year that England won the World Cup. And that's ingrained in all of us. And I remember the first time I went to Germany and realized no one there has any idea that's what happened that year. Or in any other country. It's not famous. It's just we really hang on to that. And it's like, oh no, you've won it so many times, you don't hang on to the one year that you won it 50 years ago.
Yeah. And it gets sadder with every year that passes because the thing that you're proud of gets a year older.
Further and further away. Yeah. But I was in Germany this year for the World Cup. Which was great because, they got knocked out kind of early and we did really well. So for once.
There you go. That's something to hang your hat on. So this show, this is a play where you play a fact checker.
Yes.
And you're dealing with a reporter who maybe doesn't have the same love of facts that your character does.
I should say he's not so much a reporter as he's an author. He's written kind of an essay and he deals in the sort of it is about fact checking, but it's the thing that we're not a particularly political play. You can't say the word fact at the moment without it kind of becoming a political statement, and that is obviously we're very topical in that way, but we're not dealing with Trump and that stuff and fake news. We don't kind of get into all that, but it's more about kind of a debate about artistic license and how far you can push something as a writer. But all that other stuff is encompassed as well. And it's 85 minutes long and really funny. So yeah, that's me selling it to you.
That's a good sell. You actually went and worked a job as a fact checker at the New Yorker. Yeah,
they very, very kindly, the New Yorker invited me to spend a day with or a few hours with their fact checking department, and who were all amazing and just these super bright young people who, I'm very grateful for existing. And I didn't really take it in when they said, oh, you're gonna come and we'll make you fact check an article. I was like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, I'll come and see stuff, what's going on. And then I went, they were like, no, you're gonna get on the phone to somebody and actually fact check this restaurant review. And I got way more nervous about that than I do about doing the play every night or anything, just because suddenly you're on the phone with somebody who expects you, he knows he's getting a call from the New Yorker. Right. He doesn't know it's an actor playing around at being a fact checker. Right. He's expecting a level of professionalism that I didn't know if I had in me, so yeah.
How do you fact check a restaurant review? Do you call up and say, was the soup cold?
Yeah.
You do?
You literally, check every, that's when I started underlining the article, which is what you do when you start checking something, and underline everything you think is a fact. I was like, oh, every ingredient counts as a fact. So I guess I've got to ask him about, do you put all these things in? And it was, my big moment was finding out that something was not in fact seasoned with Old Bay. It was seasoned with adobe and chili.
Wow.
And that was, but you don't know how much satisfaction I got from then seeing that restaurant review with the correct information.
Yeah.
Knowing that I had been a part of that.
That is thrill. I mean, that's a fact checker's dream, is to catch one.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I mean, I would have gotten off the phone, and even though it doesn't make sense, I would have screamed, "Stop the presses."
It's quickly.
Yeah.
So we can't run it like this.
Go.
There was, but yeah, no, and it was. It's a really like. I don't know, there was something really inspirational about going into the New Yorker and seeing how it's all done. And also, I did almost feel like saying at the end, you know, if you've ever got any really low-stakes articles that you need checking, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to call, like, the guy I had to call was a very, very nice chef who made my job very easy. I wouldn't like to be doing that job if I did have to call, you know, Sarah Sanders or somebody who's like, does not want to hear from you.
Yeah, that's true. She might not want to hear from anybody, though. So there are certain people that just don't like it when the phone rings.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
There is a show on Broadway right now. You're very familiar with the origin story of one of the characters. There's a Harry Potter show on Broadway.
Yes.
My question is, are you going to see it?
I've been asked this a lot, and I feel like I'm you know, always give a really boring, terrible answer. I'm probably not going to. I don't have plans to. Not because I think it would, you know, throw me into some sort of existential crisis of like, oh, is that what happened? Should I be what? But more so that just I feel like it would not be a relaxing evening in the theatre to be watching. Like, I feel like I would be being watched for my reaction, and maybe that is completely conceited and egotistical, and people wouldn't care. But like, I do feel like it might. If I was just surrounded by Harry Potter fans, I would feel like it would be a little odd.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that if someone's a super Harry Potter fan and they want to go see that play, if they're sitting next to Daniel Radcliffe, that's going to be a distraction from the art.
Yes, I think so as well. Like, yeah, I mean that's true as well. Yeah, there's many reasons to not go in.
Have you considered going in disguise?
The thing about a disguise is that if it stops working, then you're just a dude who wore a disguise.
Yeah.
And like, I remember there was one year when me and Rupert Grint ended up at we were at Reading Music Festival together, and like for whatever reason, because we were young, cool, and edgy, we had somebody we had access to like old World War II gas masks, so we like put them on and we're like running around at a concert, and then it got really hot very quickly, and it was very hard to breathe in them, so we just took them off, and then everybody went from like, who are those two idiots in gas masks to, oh, look who that is. It was not a good feeling. So that's sworn me off disguises.
You have all this energy, and then right after this, you have to go and do your Broadway show.
I know, yeah.
Conserve your energy, Daniel.
I don't need to conserve my energy. It's really, when people come and see the show, they're like, oh, you must be so tired. And I'm like, I'm really not. Like, it's very, I think if I was doing a show that I hated for a long time, that would be very draining. But like, we love it, a sickening amount. So
and I imagine, too, there's an excitement from the audience that you feed off when you walk on stage.
Absolutely. I mean, we are so lucky to have the kind of crowds that we've been getting, and the responses from audiences have been just, like, amazing. So we are very, very spoiled over at the Hudson.
This is at the time when it first came out, this was a play that did not work, a Stephen Sondheim musical that did not have a very long run.
Yeah.
And now this is working this time, and it must be, you all must feel, I don't know, it must feel like an honor to have made this Sondheim musical that deserved better actually finally land with an audience.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fascinating documentary that I would recommend everyone watch called The Best Worst Thing That Ever Happened about the original show, which is a really great like insight into why things went the way they did. But yeah, we're just, I don't want to like, because I think there's a lot of recency bias in how we talk and how the show is talked about, and everyone's like, you're the definitive version. It's like, well, there's going to be other great versions of the show, and if we can be a part of showing that this show is wonderful and it is a great thing that, you know, many people can do many great versions of, then we're very happy to be a part of that.
It's a friendship between three people told in reverse over 20 years. So it does have, I mean, the entry point of it does immediately sound a little confusing.
Yes, I guess so. Although it doesn't, like it's the one thing I tell everybody before they come is it goes backwards.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know that piece of information, you'll pick it up, but they might have the first few scenes, you might go, wait, they seem to just be really angry at each other. Why are they all friends again now? And I did have one friend who apparently was sitting in the audience and heard somebody in the row in front of them, when they got to the last scene of the play, go, it's going backwards. Which I did. I felt, what a bewildering 2 hours it must have been for that person.
Before I ask more about the show, I do want to. Yesterday was your day off, Broadway's day off.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you caught a peek at the eclipse.
Did, yes.
You
it was
did?
Very exciting.
All right, I'm glad to hear it.
I was doing I was am I allowed to say that we do pre-interviews? I was doing the pre-interview
Yes.
for this show, and then I said, no, we don't. This is all there. But and then I said, like, we've got to go. We both have to watch the eclipse. And it was great. It was I had stupidly not realized that I kind of saw where the path of the totality was.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, we're not in that, so I guess we don't see any eclipse. Not realizing that we still get like 95 or whatever percent it
Yeah.
was. So yeah, it was really cool.
I'm a completist. If it wasn't 100%, I
Doesn't
wasn't
count.
interested.
Nah, it's not an eclipse.
95% to me is like all sun.
Yeah, I'm all
That's
about
the whole sun.
I can't wait. Yeah, South Dakota 2042 or whatever the next one is.
Oh, let's
we're
do
going to
it.
be there.
You'll be doing regional theater.
Yes.
And, yeah.
We do merrily roll along there.
Between Off-Broadway and the Broadway run of this show, your child was born.
Yes.
Very exciting. And
Very
so
Thank you.
based on that, I'm assuming Sondheim has been a big part of their lives.
It has. Yeah. I have one song in the show which is like a patter song, and it's very fast and lyrically kind of intricate, called Franklin Shepherd Inc. And my philosophy with that song has always been that I need to learn it well enough that I could do it standing in a hurricane with people shouting at me. And a good simulation of that is, can you do it while holding your newborn child? And it was actually, there's a lot of weird noises in the song, so he actually really like enjoyed that, I think, or he, enjoyed it as much as he enjoyed anything at 4 months old. And then, the true challenge though was, there's a song at the end of the show which is called Our Time, which is just an incredibly beautiful song, and it is impossible to sing that with your newborn son without bursting into tears several times. It is, but yeah, it's lovely, and I think he's, you start him young on Sondheim, so he's going to grow up with it.
I worry that when he goes to like the first baby music class and they're doing like Old MacDonald, he's like, this song sucks.
This is
This song is very repetitive, nothing new. There's no new information.
He loves Old MacDonald. He's
Okay.
just got into Old MacDonald, and he does a really good like at completely the wrong moments. It's great.
Oh, he never does it at the
Never
right
does it
time.
at the right time. We start saying, "Oh, MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-O," and then we start to get into what the cow does, and he's just going, It's lovely.
We had to go in the other day where my 2.5-year-old, it was the 6-year-old's birthday, and she was singing Happy Birthday, but never getting to the name. So it was just like, Happy Birthday to you, and then just that over and over. And we're like, somebody unplug her.
See, these are the moments that like it sounds terrible, but at the time, but you're like, God, you're adorable.
Oh, it's the best.
Like, yes, the best. Yeah.
Now, but you also, your parents played Sondheim for you, which is a little uncommon.
I guess so. I didn't realize that not everybody was listening to Sondheim on road trips. But there was a lot of Sondheim in the car, not particularly Merrily We Roll Along, because of the way that show started, it didn't get like, the kind of cult status in England that it did over here, I think. But Company was played in the car constantly, and I love that score. Company, Follies, and also just a lot of like Kander and Ebb, so a lot of Chicago, a lot of Cabaret. Chicago terrified me as a child before I had seen it. Cell Block Tango, I was like, these women are gonna kill me. But I feel very fortunate, and it is a very cool thing to now be doing Sondheim on stage, and they've come and see me in the show, and yeah, it really is lovely.
You like to know when your parents are coming.
Yes.
But you don't like to know when, say, friends or celebrity guests, I guess, are coming.
Celebrity, or even, like, generally, I don't like to know when friends are in if I can avoid it, but there's normally a practical reason that you have to, because you're gonna see them after. But like, we had Martin Short and Meryl Streep came to the show the other day, and every time, like, a joke didn't land, I was like, Martin Short just saw you blow that. So, like, I really prefer to not know when people are in. But when my mum and dad are in, it's like, I can't screw up, and they're gonna love it. I could do my worst show ever, and they will love it.
That's the best kind of parents.
Yeah,
you
it's
need
nice.
that because then then they can go tell Marty Short. You know what usually goes better?
It's funny because sometimes my dad, like most people say, if you say to them, "Oh, the audience tonight was like a little bit like not as vocal or whatever," people kind of go, "Oh no, they were great. It was great. People loved it." And couple of times ago, my dad came and I said, "The audience seemed to not be as into it tonight," and he was like, "No, they weren't, were they?" It was weird.
I have both a supportive dad and also one who would say exactly that.
Yeah, great.
They were a little soft. I'm like, uh-huh.
Yeah.
What about your director told you, suggested, I should say, you make eye contact with audience members?
Well, this was particular. So for the first number of the show, we all come out, and it's one of the only songs that the whole company is on stage, and we are singing sort of facing out to you, the audience. And when we were off Broadway, it was a 200-seater house, so the front row, I'm here, the front row is there. And you would sometimes come out and start making eye contact with people, and you see people being like, no, I don't want to see that. But a thing that I enjoy doing now, because it is inherently awkward to like sing at somebody, I find. I like to pick, and also when you're in a bigger theatre, you can't really see past a certain point. But what you can see is binoculars. You can see just the reflection of the rims of binoculars. So I love finding one pair of binoculars in the balcony and just making constant uncomfortable eye contact with them through. And the other day I felt like this was a real, some sort of victory, even though I'm sorry if you're that person watching. But I stared at them and I just saw the binoculars go, ooh. Just like get lowered gradually.
It's like somebody it's like a sniper rifle. All of a sudden, somebody turning and going.
Yeah.
I have so enjoyed, before you guys opened, the press about this show was so lovely because it was the three of you, and you could tell you genuinely got along, delighted each other, made each other laugh. There's a scene where Jonathan Groff is typing something in a typewriter.
Yes.
And he has admitted that he writes something obscene in efforts to make you laugh.
Yes, often obscene. I literally can't tell you what he writes. Like, it's very inappropriate for TV,
I will
often.
say, there's something extra funny about something obscene on an old-timey typewriter.
I know, it really is. Yeah, sometimes it won't always be that. Like that, I'm typing on the typewriter and then I leave, and he comes over for 2 seconds and types something on it very quickly, and then I throw the paper at him afterwards. But it's sometimes it'll be just like a comment on like somebody in the audience will have like a crazy laugh, and it'll just be like crazy laugh, or whatever. But recently, at the moment we're doing auctions, so we often auction off the piece of paper, and we are very explicitly have been told by our producers that we cannot auction off the obscene ones because it is for charity, and it's also, you know, there are some kids in the audience. But yeah, generally speaking, it's just one of them. I mean, Jonathan delights in screwing with me for most of the show in a way that I find like. I mean, I adore him, and I don't know how he does it, frankly, because like there's one scene, probably one of his most intense scenes in the show. By the end of the scene, he is full on like on the floor, sobbing, crying, like, you know, it's very, very intense. Most actors before that scene would be, you know, taking a moment to be quiet or get into it or listen to some music or whatever. We are off stage together before that scene starts, and he is sometimes literally tickling me, or just like trying to do, and I have a very specific entrance to make, so I'm just like, I need to hear this cue, and he is just, yeah, but they're both like, yeah, him and Lindsay, I truly, you know, I want to find things to work with them on for the rest of my life, like, they're both just the absolute best.
And Lindsay said a very sweet thing when she was here that there are people you can tell that show up because they are Harry Potter fans, but they leave Sondheim fans, and that just must be...
Yeah, I mean, that's always been like a really nice, like, offshoot thing about my career is that I remember when I did Equus, there would be people who would be like, do you feel weird about people coming to see the show just because you're Harry Potter? And we're like, I mean, not really, because they're going to see Equus eventually. Like, you know, you know, with Swiss Army Man, with absolutely with this show, like, it's really cool to bring some people who might not otherwise have wanted to see a show to see that show.
I'm going through a really nice thing right now, which is my kids are the age where they're really into the books and they're watching the movies, which, you know, I was at the age when they came out that I didn't see them, and I just want to say, you're very good.
That's not true, but thank you.
I'm not just saying this, I think it's going to work.
I mean, thank you. I disagree with you about my performance in many of the films, but I thank you for that. That's very kind.
That's right. I will say, so I said to my kids today, you were going to be on. I said, do you want to come? And the speed in which they said no, because... But let me explain. I've shown them times, you know, people who've been on the show that have been in something they've loved, and I'm like, look, Daddy talked to, and they hate that it's not the character.
Yeah.
So I would imagine when kids meet you, it probably sways wildly between overwhelmed and wildly disappointed.
Yes, I mean, it often tilts wildly disappointed. I mean, especially because if they're very young kids, they've probably only seen maybe the first 1 or 2 films.
Yeah.
And so then they have a parent who's my age who's like, it's Harry Potter. And the kid's like, it is not. It is, this man is old. Yeah, so I definitely, I think I probably have that effect on a lot of kids.
Well, of course, like, for
yeah.
example, so this is my son, and he is obviously closer to the age of Harry Potter than you are now.
Yeah.
But this is him when I read him the books. He dresses up.
Does he get fully dressed up every time you read it?
He just got his Gryffindor, whatever cloak, so that's a big part of it now.
Whatever.
He woke me up. Look, I'm just gonna say it. I don't think there's a difference in the houses. I think there's way too. He literally came to him in the middle of the night because he had this logic problem. He came, he's like, Dad. I'm like, what? He goes, when they show up, they're wearing the cloaks. I'm like, yes. He goes, but the Sorting Hat hasn't picked the house yet. So how are they wearing the Gryffindor cloaks later? When do they get the new cloaks?
I think, if I remember, and it was a while ago, I think we are in sort of neutral cloaks when we first come in, and then, you know, magic.
That's what I told him.
I mean, you can fix a lot.
I like, by the way, you're giving me a hard time, and you're like, magic?
One of the questions we always had on set, because we would look around these beautiful, amazing sets we were on and be like, it's really dirty. Like, why is it, like, that's an aesthetic choice. When you've got magic, to have, like, a rustic, dirty look is, like, that's a choice you're making.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want it to be dirty.
Yeah.
Lastly, I think we showed you this, but this is, because again, you say young kids have only seen the first two.
Yeah.
They do get scarier, right?
Yes.
And so, but this is the end of the first one, and this is my son Axel, and he is so scared, and this has made me so happy.
You liar! Kill him!
It's so good.
It's so good. I'm really enjoying it. Congrats on the show.
Thank you
It
so
is
much.
always
It's
so
such a
great
pleasure.
to have
Yeah,
you here.
thank you.
Daniel Radcliffe. It's very exciting to have you back on Broadway, the same theater you did Merrily.
Yes, yeah, it's very nice to be
Are
back.
you? Sometimes I will go to a theater where I've seen a different play, and I cannot believe how different it looks.
Yes.
Even as now a Broadway vet, are you also surprised when you walk in and see what they've done with the same space?
Particularly for this show, we have really changed the space entirely. We've the stage has steps now that go into the audience because there's a lot of, as we will talk about, there's a lot of audience interaction in this show, and the audience is also on stage with me, so there's sort of three sides, so it's kind of in the round. So we've done a lot to it. But the Hudson is also, for anyone who has been, it's a beautiful theatre. Like, it's a really great, so I'm very, very happy and lucky to be back there.
And it's you mentioned the audience participation. This is a
Yes.
show where basically if you show up, if you buy a ticket for this show, you might be actually speaking in the show.
There is a chance, yes.
Yeah.
So there's two sort of grades of audience participation. There's a sort of low impact, low pressure one where I give you a card which has a number and a thing on it, and I say the number in the show and you shout the thing back at me. And then there are 5 people who will be playing parts in the show that night when they come to see it. They don't know that when they walk in, and I kind of, so half an hour before the show, I start the show in the audience before the show begins every night, and I'm kind of chatting to you as you come in and trying to figure out who is going to play which parts. I think I might have roped Seth into playing a part when he comes to the show. So like, it's a very unique.
Do you have like a plan? Are you looking for something in an audience member that makes you think they'll be good for this or they'll be good for that?
Not particularly. I mean, it really is just you go on kind of vibes and connection and hope it. And you know, we've been pretty fortunate so far. We have not had anybody get up and do anything like crazy. So you're kind of trying to look for that as a bit of a radar.
Yeah.
But like generally speaking,
would you say like if someone's too eager, you tend to like if they're
Yeah, I mean, I have had at least one like slightly very nice man, but like a little bit drunk, maybe be like, "Hey, use my wife, like just get her up there." And I'm like, and a lot of people want me to humiliate their relatives. They're like, "Hey, here's my dad, embarrass him." I'm like, that's really not the point of the show. It's not the feel. It's like we want everyone to have like a nice time when they're up.
You also, there's a thing where critics come to a show and they review a show,
Yes.
and they're also in the audience. And there was a very positive review of the show in Vulture. Literally, the Sarah Holdren wrote, Daniel Radcliffe and I are married now.
Yes, I did get married to Sarah Holdren on stage.
But you did not know that this was a critic?
I was informed moments after I finished the performance that I had picked a major critic to play my love interest that night. And then I immediately started kind of backtracking in my mind, like, well, she seemed to be laughing. She seemed to be having a good time. I guess I guess it was going well. So yeah, but fortunately, she thank God she liked the show. And yeah, it's wonderful. Like, the great thing about the show is that I think people worry that when we get them up on stage that they have to be like super smart or super funny or super whatever. And if you are those things, then that's great and that will be cool. But really the only thing the show needs to succeed is kindness. And I think I'm pretty good at spotting that in people now, particularly if you get a family and you're like, "Hey, is your mum a very kind person?" They'll be like, yeah, she's the kindest in the world. Get her up there, get her up. It's very, very sweet. And so, yeah, I like to think nobody who has come up to the audience participation has left regretting. I think everyone has had a really nice time.
Yeah, that's
hopefully.
lovely.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I would regret is if if you asked somebody, is your mom nice? And they were like, no.
I mean, yeah, that would be.
That is not good casting.
There has been a couple of like supremely awkward moments when I approached people and asked them, "Are you a couple?" And the other day it was like, "No, we're mother and son." Oh. So I was like, "Oh God, I'm so I don't know who I feel more sorry about. I'm so sorry." But yeah, so there's some awkward moments, but like, fun stuff.
Well, just the real awkward moment is when they drove home.
Yes, yeah, I didn't have to be there for that.
Yeah, that's nice. You had our friend, your current co-star
Yes.
on Reggie Dinkins, Tracy Morgan, was on this show, and he said he was going to come, the great Tracy Morgan. And he said he was going to come support you on Broadway. Did he show up?
He absolutely did. Yeah, him. We've had him, Erica Alexander, Precious Way, and Bobby Moynihan. All like so many of the cast of the show have come. Tracy, I was like, I need to give him something to shout out. I landed on number 24 of. The show is Spaghetti Bolognese. And so the people who laughed know immediately how that will sound coming out of Tracy's amazing voice. And he absolutely nailed it.
Now, could everybody in the audience see it was Tracy Morgan?
They could
Or when they
not.
heard it, were they like, oh, Tracy's here?
I imagine that.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine the people sitting on stage might have been able to see him, but, you know, it's a pretty inimitable style he has.
Yeah.
So I feel like anyone, and especially, I mean, maybe you know that I'm on a show with him currently, so people would have just been going like, wow, if that's not Tracy Morgan,
Yeah.
it's a very good Tracy Morgan impression.
It is very funny. Like, at this point in my life, I've not met a second person who talks like him.
No, yeah.
So
yeah.
it would be very weird if they were at a Broadway show of somebody who co-starred with
Yes,
him. Yeah.
actually, yeah. No, he was amazing.
Your parents are very supportive, if I recall. Have
Yes.
they come to see this show?
Yes, they are batting about 500 in terms of how many shows they've come to see right now. They're at about 50%.
Of this show?
Of this show.
Oh, wow.
No,
so they
not of
come a
everything.
lot.
They've come a lot. They come a lot in previews. They were there for, I reckon, about half the shows. It bears rewatching more than most shows because so much changes every night. But they are also just very proud, supportive parents.
Yeah.
And there is one bit in the show where I have to reference an old couple in the audience, and it's much nicer to do that with my own parents than to approach an otherwise, like, you know, a well-meaning older couple and be like, hey, do you mind if I call you old in the first 5 minutes of the show? So it's easier to do that with them.
That's very nice. Your Broadway debut was Equus.
Yeah.
What was your first experience doing a Broadway show in New York?
Well, I mean, it was amazing. Like, I was working with Richard Griffiths and all these incredible actors, and it was, you know, a very intense show to do. This one's a lot more sort of fun in many ways. But I had this amazing experience of just like what a theater-centric town New York is, because I was running in Central Park and I just thought that I would know my way home, and I got incredibly lost. Yeah. And I exited the park miles from where I was supposed to be, and I was like, right, I don't know, and I know it's a grid, but I hadn't figured that out yet. And I was trying to work out how to get home, and I was like, oh, there's a fire truck and some firefighters. They probably know their way around. So I just went up to one of them and I was like, hi, do you know how I get to like West 66th or wherever I was staying? And the firefighter I talked to was like, hey, you're doing that horseplay, right? And I was like, I don't know, it was very cool. The fact that just like everyone in New York like knows about theater and knew about like Equus of all the plays to know about. Like it was very cool.
It is the most horseplay of all horseplay.
It is true horseplay.
It is true horseplay.
Yeah.
I got more to ask you. We'll be right back with Daniel after this.
Okay. Yeah. I wanted action. I am getting it. Finally, literal conflict. For the past 2 months, I have done nothing but eat, sleep, and breathe this documentary. And now, look, we're out in the world, sun is shining, blood is pumping, and something is about to happen. I can feel it.
What you doing?
I'm just doing my thing. I'm the director in charge of all this. What you doing?
We're here with Daniel Radcliffe. That was a clip from the fall and rise of Reggie Dinkins and Megan Thee Stallion.
Yeah.
And did you direct Megan here?
I did not.
Okay.
No. Megan Thee Stallion is a guest star in the first season of our show, which is like I think we were all just incredibly lucky that somebody as famous and cool as her was like, yeah, we'll dive in on. I feel like people normally wait for a show to become like a hit before they get involved, and she was like, I guess Tina knows her, and
this is Tina Fey, Robert Carlock, Sam Means. This is an incredible team of people,
it's amazing.
all of whom worked on 30 Rock, obviously. 30 Rock, was that a show? When did you become aware of 30 Rock?
So actually, when I came to New York to do Equus, a friend of mine was visiting from the UK, and he was like, "You're in New York. You need to watch like the best New York show that is like current." And he gave me a box set of 30 Rock, and so that was my first introduction to it. So the idea that then like 15 years later I would be working with that team and with Tracy is just like, you know, mind blowing and so cool. And yeah, the show's great. It's really funny. Like Megan was so like up for playing and was really really fun and just awesome. And yeah, the whole cast, like, you know, Tracy, Erica, Precious, Bobby. It's just
We
a great-
talked last time you were here, where we were talking about Merrily We'll Roll Along. We were talking about how you now know Tracy. And how you can hear stories about what Tracy is like,
Yeah.
but until you work with him, you don't fully appreciate how much he is Tracy Morgan.
Yeah, you really don't. And you it's a lovely thing, but then when you watch other people meet him, you see people have the same face of like, oh, right, it's just Tracy Morgan, Tracy Jordan, there's a very thin line.
Yeah.
Like,
After you meet with Tracy, you're not like, how'd you get into character for Tracy Jordan?
right.
What,
Yeah.
do you have a favorite thing he said to you?
I mean, I can't possibly
Yeah.
narrow it down. Can I swear? Can you bleep it?
You can, yeah.
He said at one point, and this is as much context as I had for this comment. He said, "I told Flavor Flav, you take that clock off." And I think that was just like, between turnover and action. Like there was it came out of nowhere. I've been to Tracy's house.
Now
which-
that I'm so jealous of, because I've known Tracy for like 25 years, never got an invite to the house.
Dude.
I love talking to him about the house.
Yeah, it's everything you think.
Yeah.
He does have a Shark Tank.
Yeah.
He has, I think, and that's the big one. Then he's got like 11 smaller fish
Yeah.
tanks. But like he does have a pool table with piranhas in the bottom. He does have like a cone snail, which is the deadliest creature in the world by weight. It can kill a blue whale. He has glass from the Titanic. He has one of Michael Jackson's gloves. He has a basketball court. Like it's the like if you ever get a chance, if your life ever takes you to a place where Tracy Morgan is inviting you to his house, you just have to go.
Yeah. I would imagine too, like. Also, I would imagine you want the tour with Tracy. You don't want to be there like when Tracy's out of town and you don't want somebody else explaining it to you.
I did get some of the tour from his assistant Lucas, and that's also a very fun person to get the tour from. I would say, because like he knows I'm like, wait, how is this happening? Like it's a good sort of behind the scenes look at things. Which is great.
We once after an Emmys, it was like all the New York people who were at the Emmys were all flying back on the same red eye. And I just remember it was like sort of all of us on the plane. And Tracy, it was, everybody wanted to go to sleep. And then Tracy was just talking about like, his fish tanks. I remember John Slattery was like, I want to sleep, but I also feel like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Yeah.
There's a lot of, I mean, it is just, and I went to a Knicks game with Tracy, which again is like going to the Knicks game with the mayor of New York. So like, he knows everyone. He's an amazing character. And kind of like, particularly at MSG, he feels like, it's him and Spike Lee. They are like the guys who are there every day, and like, it's
I think people love a Knicks fan who is authentically a Knicks fan.
Genuine Knicks fan. Like he is not. He's not.
He didn't come to it like
no,
it's almost like he wanted to be famous so he could sit there.
And he shouted to the player. He kept telling me he was gonna make LeBron James give me one of his shoes, and I was like, please don't. I'm sure he doesn't want to do that.
By the way, I can't remember who did it, but Tina went to a game with him, and he pointed out a player, not even. Someone on the Knicks, he's like, he's gonna give you his shoes. And Tina's like, he gave me his shoes.
And it was his, and I believe it was that player's first game.
It was,
and
they
so
just traded for him.
Right, and Tracy was like, yo, give Tina your shoes. And he did.
He did, and it's really funny because Tina has a great picture, which is like, if you said like, what's this a picture of? You're like, that's Tracy asking a man to give you his shoes. Because it's like him talking and the guy's sort of looking over at Tina. And it worked. You
But he's
also, we've talked in the past, obviously grew up in England, but now NFL fan.
Yep.
You love American football.
Yes.
You've got a child. Are you trying to get them into football or trying to keep them away?
No, I'm trying to I hope he enjoys it. I hope he likes watching sports. So I feel like we're pretty good on screen time, but we let sports, we're just hopefully subliminally you'll just be into this. So football, the Olympics, he was watching a lot of that. And I'm raising a little American. He's got an incredibly cute voice. Right? When I hear him, when he's here on his own, I don't think of him as having a weird accent. And then I meet him with other American kids. I'm like, no, you have a bizarre little voice. You have you're right in the middle. But the other day, I've been working more recently, so I've been away from home a little bit more, and his accent's become 20% more American in the last few weeks. So it's very strange, but it's very cute. He says Saturday with 5 R's. He goes Saturday. Yeah, it's cute.
Do you think it's healthy that you get away so he can actually have the accent of his home nation?
No, I'm gonna keep trying to infect him with Britishisms. He says trousers in a cute little voice still.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna.
He's
I'm gonna
like,
try
oh,
and
the
slide
game's
in.
on. I'm gonna put on my football trousers.
Yeah.
Congrats on the show, both shows, and thanks for being here. It's always the best here. Daniel Radcliffe, everybody.